Welcome to Scorched Earth and the general reading for the sign of Leo, Sun, Moon or Ascendant for the month of August 2024. Happy birthday season to you. I hope you're well. We're using the Night's on Tarot for you today. There is a bit of nudity on this, so if we see any nudity I am going to cover it up with another card because it's enough to trigger the AI bots and have the video flagged for nudity content. So if that's what happens, that's what I'm doing. So what do I have to tell you? There will be an extended at the end of this reading. The link for that is down in the description box, and you can view it either on Vimeo or you can come over to my private community, the Order of the Phoenix, over on the Circle platform. It's entirely up to you. Right, it's been a hot minute since we spoke last, Leo, so let's have a look and see what's going on with you. Could I have 3 cards for Leo, please? What's going on with Leo? Whoa. Okay. So, first card with some nudity. We have the Star card. Let's just pop that there like that so we don't upset anything. What about current energy, please, for Leo? Thank you. We have Temperance. And what's coming towards Leo for August, please? Oh, goodness. We have the Ace of Swords. Not quite showing up upright, but maybe it's having a go. Let's get some clarifiers out and we'll talk about that, because there is a planetary transit that might well be speaking to that. We're using the Triple Goddess to clarify today, so let's give those a shuffle as well, and then we'll have a look and see what we are looking at. So, tell me about the Star, please, for Leo. There's a Star here for Leo. We have the 8 of Pentacles. And one more, please. Thank you. And we have the 3 of Cups. Tell me about Temperance, please. Why is that here for Leo? Right, we have 3 cards, and they are the 7 of Cups, the 8 of Wands, and the Queen of Swords. And then what about this Ace of Swords showing up sideways like that? We have the Magician and the Judgment card, which is very interesting because they're both sideways too. This suggests to me that this month really is quite pivotal for helping you decide the direction of your life moving forwards, right? And that sounds a little bit vague and generic when I put it like that, and it doesn't feel that way at all. It feels actually quite specific. It's interesting that one of the cards that flipped in the deck somewhere was the 2 of Wands. Actually, it might have been in there. I saw it, at least, anyway. And the 2 of Wands gives us an idea of arriving at a crossroads of some sort. You know, we're not yet at our destination. We're on our way. And that's quite interesting because I think for Leos, there's been a lot of upheaval in the last few months. I mean, certainly speaking from my own experience, there's been a lot of upheaval. And that can be in the area of where you literally live, but it can be within your work. It could be within relationships, family relationships, friendships, partnerships, these sorts of things. But even the fact that these cards are kind of pointing in a different direction is interesting. Because I'm not skipping to the end here. I feel like this is important for considering everything that's on the table at the moment. But if we concentrate on these 3 cards here, just overviewing what's going on. Right at the beginning of August, Mercury goes into retrograde. That's particularly poignant for me because my Mercury is also in Leo. In addition to being a Leo Sun and a Leo Moon, my Mercury is also in Leo. So Pluto is in the process of opposing my Mercury. And in fact, if you have any placements in Leo whatsoever, they are currently, at least by house, being opposed by Pluto, which is speaking to transformation and overhauling and becoming, you know, the sloughing of the skin is what we're talking about there. This card talks of truth, but it also talks about the way that you think, and it talks about communication. It talks about the way that you process information. I mean, ultimately, this card is talking about truth. Now, the truth it seems, in a particular situation, is feeling a little bit malleable. Which means that there's a perspective shift that is occurring in August, I think. That, you know, along with the Judgment card and the Magician card, is going to provide you with some clarity on your next moves forwards. Like I said, I feel like there's been quite a lot of upheaval for Leos over the course of the last few months. Obviously, I haven't been here because I've been dealing with my own upheaval. So you must take this as it resonates to you. And if you aren't, you know, a Leo sun or a Leo ascendant, perhaps you're a Leo moon or you're a Leo Mercury like me, or even a Leo Mars or whatever, you might find that the way that you do things is changing, the way that you think is changing, the way that you feel about situations is changing. And all of this is giving you information which you are taking in and having to learn to process a different way. Now, as it stands, you could well be feeling like where you have arrived is the end destination. And I feel like what these cards are saying here is, no, this has just been a stop on the schedule, but actually this is where perhaps the longer stretch of the journey starts. And August has this quality of changing what you thought, the way that you thought about it, what you value. Particularly Venus is going into Leo in might actually be there now. Possibly, might well be there now. Why is that important? Because it's about things that you value. Everything feels kind of like it's staging for August. But let's have a look and see what has contributed to the build-up to this, because I think that that's as important too. So we have two kings at the bottom of the deck. We've got the King of Cups, we've got the King of Pentacles. And together they rule emotions. King of Cups, it's a Scorpio card. It's how you demonstrate and express in a healthy and active way your emotional well-being. It is emotional stability. It is indeed that kind of fixed element of emotions that says that, you know, no matter what happens, I emotionally will be able to deal with this transition. Equally, with the King of Pentacles, we've got this idea of responsibility and duty, but we've also got straight up resources, the management of resources. How have you managed your resources to get yourself to where you are? And is where you're going next going to require from you the same kind of attitude towards your resources, or towards responsibility, or towards duty? Or is it time for a change? You know, there's fixed energies here which have helped you become established wherever you are. But is it time for you to continue on in that vein, or to change to meet the new circumstances that you find yourself within? You know, the kings, although we talk about them in terms of being a fixed energy, there is an adaptability because they understand their own foundation. And I think this is really important, right? They don't get broadsided by things. Right? Neither of these kings would be broadsided by anything. And if surprise situations did arise, they would be able to lean on the foundation that they have created for themselves internally in order to come up with the best set of judgments and decisions moving forwards. In your recent past, let's keep her covered up there, we have the Star. The Star is the card of Aquarius, and generally it deals with the future, but it also speaks to your highest goals, hopes, dreams and aspirations, like what it is that you have been working towards. And, you know, whether or not you feel like you've achieved that in its entirety, you're certainly much closer to touching the star than you ever have been before, right? Because you find yourself where you are right now, and whatever the goal was, the distance between you and it has shortened dramatically, if not completely disappeared. It's also a card of healing, which is really quite interesting, because I feel like there's been a lot of internal growth for Leo over the course of the last year or so, and most of that, frankly, has come through situations that have been uncomfortable, incredibly frustrating. You know, it's felt a lot like you've been bouncing your head off a wall here, there and everywhere. And for whatever reason, and I would not presume to understand the intent of the universe on this front, like, it's actually been beneficial for you. it's been incredibly beneficial for you. I do feel like this, the emotional stability and the management of resources are two things. When I'm talking about resources, let's not think that we're talking only about financial resources. These can also speak to any energetic resources that you have. Your stamina is a resource. Your strength is a resource. Everything that you can invest into something or lean into when things are hard, that's a resource that you own. So we have emotional resources and emotional stability. We have energetic resources, and energetic stability might possibly be a thing too. And a more long-term view, which you've needed to employ in order to get to this position that you're in now, which is, like I said, if not sitting on top of your star, then at least closer to it than you ever have been before. We've got the Eight of Pentacles here, talking about the amount of work that you have put in to achieve whatever you have achieved right now. And I don't want to push this in terms of this being necessarily a 3D situation. Moving house would be a good example of that, possibly. Maybe you've been putting in extra hours because you wanted that promotion and now you've got it. Those sorts of things are possible. But there are other ways that growth can be achieved, and there are other ways that we can perceive an increased value in our life that we have actually worked for. We've really invested in something, our time, our care, our effort, our energy into something, and it's giving us some sort of reward. I mean, the eights, when they show up in the tarot, are all about power and where power lies, how you exercise power, how you allow power to be exercised over you, how the workings of your own mind can sometimes sabotage you in the exercise of your power and your authority and your autonomy and these sorts of issues. And it's interesting to note that you have two cards that are numbered 8. I mean, strictly you have 3 because the star is 17, which reduces down to 8. Excuse me. But we have this Three of Cups here. Now, the Three of Cups are emotional support networks for me. I mean, this can be your friends. These can be your neighbours. It can be anybody that you lean on in times of strife. The interesting thing here for me, and I'm going to pull up another card, another set of cards, actually, I'm going to do that right now, to look at this, is that I feel it's almost like the Three of Cups hasn't played as much of a part within what you've been working towards as you would have liked. Perhaps what you've achieved has had to come at the expense of having that lighter, supportive network around you. Maybe you haven't been able to hang out with friends because you've been working so hard on this. You've had to focus really quite strongly, and the other bits of life have somewhat fallen by the wayside. It could well be that your attention has been turning recently to the idea of, how do I bring more people in now? How do I start fashioning a community for myself where I now find myself? Tell me about this Three of Cups, please. So we've got the Knight of Swords in reverse, and we've got the Eight of Wands in reverse. Yeah, I'm gonna... interesting. We've got the Nine of Swords, beg your pardon, at the bottom of the deck now. The Eight of Wands is often about communication, right? Fast-moving communication. It's also about situations that begin to gain momentum of sorts, right? And they start to move under their own steam and whatnot. This is reversed. It's another 8, which is interesting, but it's reversed. And we have this Gemini card of the Knight of Swords, which is also about the transmission of information, right? Both of these cards talk about almost on a mimetic level, ideas, emotions, that sort of thing, being expressed from one place to another, one head to another. For them to come up under this Three of Cups right here, I feel like there has been a realization that there's been a cost to what you have been working toward. And in some ways, perhaps you have been so fixated on the result that you've been trying to achieve, you realize that those lighter moments of life that really bring us joy, really bring us value, kind of surrounding us all the time, right? The being present hasn't really been there. I mean, we've got the Nine of Swords here. It's concern, it's worry, it's anxiety, it's feeling alone. I mean, you see here in this card, I don't think you've been waking up in the middle of the night, you know, suffering bouts of insomnia, worried about the fact that you don't have a friendship circle or, you know, emotional support or anything like that. It's like the recognition that everything has cost and you've paid it. And I feel like, particularly with this Eight of Wands turning upright in your present energy, it's like you can take your foot off the gas with some of the other stuff that you've been doing, and now it's about creating more of that community spirit where you find yourself now. So when we come into your current energy, we have the Temperance card, which is a card of balance. It's a card of healing. It's a card of healing that comes through being able to balance yourself. And I do think that a lot of this is just kind of looking around at where you are and situating yourself in time and space, because things are different. You've put so much energy into arriving to where you are that now it's time to take stock of where you are and who you find there. You know, who is sitting around here? Who's who is now part of the environment? Who is gone that you would like back? Who's still hanging around that you perhaps want shot of? You know, the Queen of Swords is about exercising discernment. And I think that so much of you has changed in arriving where you are in August 2024. Or rather, you know, the last couple of weeks of July 2024. That you need to stop and take stock, because there's as much of trying to work out who you are now, almost before you try and work out who everybody else is. The Seven of Cups is a card of confusion sometimes. It's also a card of illusion, and the fact that Neptune is sitting on the 29th degree of Pisces right now is probably quite pertinent, because I do think it gives everything a quality of surreality. And you seem to me to be trying to root. And it's very difficult to root yourself in a fog. It's very difficult for you to root yourself in a Scotch mist. It's almost like, so you are where you are and you are where you decided that you wanted to be, but you can't really see the vista yet. Now, is it that the sun needs to come out and clear all the fog, clear all the mist away? Or is it that you need to set up a base camp and start trying to move beyond the level of the clouds? This is possible too. It's interesting how much of this is kind of consideration of other people, but the reason why it seems to me to be so amorphous, right? This idea of trying to root yourself amongst people and amongst, you know, the place that you're in and everything, is because you yourself have changed. And until you work out who you are, it's going to be very difficult for you to work out who everybody else is. I'm going to qualify that statement when we move into, or kind of quantify that statement when we move into the cards for August. There's something mildly dissociative about your energy at the moment, Leo, which is really interesting. It's almost like you've dug in so hard to achieving your goal. You've popped out the other side, you've achieved your goal. And that in and of itself seems to be a surprising thing, because it's stretched out in front of you for so long, so far, that there was kind of a, well, this is what my life is now, right? It's always working towards this, my own personal star, whatever that was. And now you're here, kind of like, it's interesting, there was something similar that came out for Sagittarius when I did their reading. It was almost like there's a hole where the goal was. There's a hole in your sense of self, now you've achieved this thing, it's going to say you've got to kind of pick yourself up and reorient yourself. I mean, that is Seven of Cups, King of Pentacles, but he's on his side, right? He needs to be in his upright position to truly be able to root himself and then start planning for the future. We have the Four of Cups in reverse and the Page of Pentacles. It's a sense of having to start again. But I'm wondering if you've even given yourself an opportunity to enjoy the fact that you have arrived where you are. You know, the Temperance card, like I said, it speaks about regaining equilibrium. It talks about coming through something that has been very, very difficult and then realigning yourself. Like, okay, this is where I am now. How do I assimilate the information that I picked up during the course of the process that took me to where I am, and make this part of an inherent wisdom that sits within? So although the Temperance card speaks to balance, I feel like it's here more about the need to balance than the achievement of the balance. And this could be work-life balance, rather, you know, work-relationship balance. It could be environmental, it could be geographical, it could be anything. It seems like there was a lot of growth very rapidly. And like teenage boys hit that phase where they grow so quickly, their limbs grow so quickly, that it takes their brain a while to catch up to how tall they are or how wide their shoulders are, and they get very clumsy and they're kind of bumping into things all the time because actually their shoulders are several inches wider than they think that they are, and they are several inches taller than they thought they were, and the growth is so rapid that it takes a hot minute for you to catch up and go, okay, well, actually this is how long my limbs are, this is how tall I am going to keep walking into that beam if I don't remind myself that I need to duck to get underneath there. I don't think there's any problem with the emotional stability. I don't think there's any problem with the resources that you have to draw on. But I think that you yourself have expanded. Very Jupiterian concept, expansion. And I think there's just a little bit of confusion. Or you work out how big you are and how it is that the new bigger version of you roots to the situation that you have created for yourself. Now, whether or not this involves other people, I feel like it does. I feel like other people are a really critical part of this for you. But I don't think it's an epic rush to go out and find friends. It feels like the extension of you, of understanding the new expanded you, is now reaching its kind of tentacles out and saying, like, and now community. Where is my place in the community? Where is my place? I think that's probably a big part of what this is. And other people being the mirror back to us. Likely it might be that you're finding other people's reactions to you slightly confusing at this point, because they're mirroring back to you who you are now, and not who you were to get yourself to this place, which is a you that you understand more deeply than the you that you currently are. I hope that this is making sense, because this is very nuanced, Leo, what's going on here. And I'm not surprised that it feels a little bit surreal to you. But I think perhaps you've been trying to run before you can walk. And I think that's what's making things confusing. I think that that's what's making things feel a little bit more surreal than they need to. You know, we've got the King of Pentacles on his side here. And he's saying take some time to be grateful for who you are, what you are, and where you are right now. In time, space, the universe, everything, you know? And there's a tried and true method that you can utilize because you've been through this process of rebirth and regeneration so many times. Start small and work your way up from there. This feels like a very specific message. And it's not because you yourself are small. It's quite the reverse. It's because you yourself are now big. And you need to spend a bit of time learning how to maneuver around your surroundings and the people that are in your surroundings in your new expanded state. So don't take too many big steps too quickly. Allow it almost to flow a little bit more holistically, or at least that would be the ideal, right? So when we move into August, I said it felt like August would be a bit of a pivotal month. Now, obviously, if you're a Leo's sun, this is your birthday month. It's your solar return, and that's always a big deal, right? Should be a big deal. But there's something else going on here. I said that I thought it was interesting that the Ace of Swords is pointing in one direction and these two major arcana cards are pointing in the other. And I do feel like to that end, what we have is a month whereby you may feel like you are not making any progress with anything at all. Because you're pushing in a particular direction, you're pushing to understand things by processing things the way that you always used to. Now, I said that the planetary transit that I was talking about was actually the Mercury retrograde that is going to happen in the month of August in your sign. This always necessitates a stop, a slowdown, a revisit, reevaluate, reconsider. But I don't think this is about any particular situation. I feel like this is more about recognizing that the way that your mind works has changed significantly, and it's been changed by whatever you've been doing this year. And there are things that are currently obscured from your vision that you may yourself be slightly oblivious to, because in some ways you have to catch up with where your mind is at. You yourself have been reprogrammed and you have not noticed that you've been reprogrammed. And what's interesting is that the universe is kind of pushing in the other direction. Where once something, the way that your mind worked would have taken you in a particular direction, the universe is kind of pushing back here. And it does feel like these two are grinding on top of each other. I mean, as far as I can tell, and I am thoroughly out of the loop with the astrology of the moment, I must confess, but there are one or two people that I've caught on YouTube videos while I've been unpacking boxes and stuff like that, who've been talking about the energy of August being really quite skewy. Well, that would be, that can be explained by Pluto being a retrograde, Saturn being a retrograde, Neptune being... Right, apologies, Leo. One of the pitfalls of living in a country where it is currently 44 degrees outside is keeping the internal space cool enough that cameras will actually operate. I seem to be getting about half an hour out of my camera before it shuts down because it's overheating. So this one, though, is still working. So we're just going to proceed, and you'll have to cope without my rubbery facial expressions for the last bit of the reading. I'm sure that'll be fine with you. Anyway, we're focusing here on this, and what I was saying before the camera shut down was there's a quote by Einstein that has come to mind when I'm looking at these cards, and that quote is something along the lines of, forgive me, I'll probably butcher it, no problem can be solved by the same level of consciousness that created it. Now I want to take that quote and kind of twist it around a little bit and say, for you, in a similar way that seems to be happening with Sagittarius when I did their reading too, it's like the level of consciousness that got you to where you are now is not the same level of consciousness that is going to take you towards what it is that that the universe seems to be pushing you toward. Judgment and the Magician are extremely powerful cards. Judgment can indicate a life-changing decision of some sort, right? But it's about your judgment. It's about the exercise of your judgment. It is a card of ascension, right? As you can see, very clearly depicted here in the Triple Goddess. It's a card of moving through and beyond, which is to say then that where you are right now is not where you are to stay by way of level of consciousness or even necessarily situation. But in order to allow yourself to move through this point of ascension and beyond to the path that the universe is laying out for you, there's a certain amount of cooperation and will that needs to go along with it. Now, it feels to me like over here, in the desire to root yourself to the circumstances that you are in, there's a level of flexibility that is not being exercised, right? We can see that with these two kings perhaps as well, right? The focus is very much on rooting and then looking for the problems, such as you see them, the things that cause you concern, the fact that perhaps you're not giving yourself the space to enjoy where you are and let things flow, right? I did say the kings can be quite adaptable, and they are when their energy is utilised effectively. When it's utilised to try and keep you in one space, it feels like it's happening here, because the end goal that you were working towards for such a long time is now more or less in your hand, and it's, you know, now we have to adjust and whatnot. It says to me that the whole of August is about recognising, allowing your brain to catch up. Like I was saying before the camera shut off, the way that you think is changing. The information that you are taking in is changing. You know, it's very difficult for you to create in this, I was going to say in this level of chaos, but I actually don't think the chaos is the problem. I think the fixedness is the problem. The chaos is actually incredibly supportive, and the chaos is what you need at this point, because it's like a big primordial soup of possibility. But at the moment, your consciousness seems to be pulling in a different direction, and it's one that smacks of an old version of you rather than the one that currently exists. The processing machine needs to keep up with where you are spiritually, or catch up with where you are spiritually, in order for you to move forwards. Now, I did say, you know, Neptune is in retrograde, Saturn is in retrograde, Pluto's in retrograde, Mercury will be in retrograde. I believe at some point in August, Mars will also go into retrograde, right? We've got a metric fuck ton of retrograde energy at play. Now, like I said before, this is about revisiting, reconsidering, reevaluating. But I think in your case, it's about the assimilation of everything as is. And I really do think that for all Leos, the majority of August is about allowing a holistic flow to come into your life that you have not been able to permit while you have been working so hard to achieve your highest goals, hopes, aspirations. There's a certain level of control that you seem to be trying to exert over circumstances, which is of the nature of the past. It is not of the nature of now. Let's just pull up here, and this, you know, this would be why this Page of Pentacles is here, because it's just like, start small, feel into your space. How big are you now, Leo? What do you represent in the space that you're in? What is being reflected back to you by the people around you? Is anything being reflected back to you by the people around you? And if not, why not? Like, it really does seem to be asking you to just take some space and allow to be what is, while your brain catches up with where you are. Got the Nine of Swords coming out again sideways, Three of Cups in reverse, interesting, Strength card and the Six of Pentacles. Yeah, I mean, again, the emphasis is on the balance, and I do think that this is possibly what it is to be to be a Leo, because the exercise of strength, the exercise of power, which is, you know, well within the wheelhouse of the archetype of Leo, sometimes requires you to pull and sometimes requires you to push, and sometimes it requires you to stay exactly where you are. The true strength in the matter is not whether you are pushing or pulling or standing still. It's having the wisdom to discern where your strength, where your power is exercised in any given moment. And I really do feel like August needs to be, for you, a month of not even necessarily quiet reflection, but observance. Because everybody's going to feel this retrograde energy moving very, very strongly through their lives over the course of August. And that may well be accompanied with those things that we associate with retrograde energy. So we're going to see, you know, a lot of frustration. We're going to see a lot of people trying to initiate things and being stymied in one way or another. It's a very good time for completing what you have already started, though. And since August seems to be a month where the universe considers you to have started something even more significant than you thought you were working towards, allowing the energy to allow you to take it where it may, while you observe rather than feel the need to control or obsessively understand, or even just, you know, try and observe your new circumstances with an old level of consciousness. That old level of consciousness got you to where you are, and it is extremely welcome that happened, but you yourself are now different. And allowing that to be assimilated, allowing your brain to catch up, allowing your spirit to point the way, I think is what August is all about. Because like I said, it feels very strongly to me that this here, not yet revealed to you, but certainly likely that you're going to feel that oppositional tension between your level of mental awareness and your level of problem solving and your level of all of these things, right? Old level of consciousness being pushed back at by the universe, saying, no, this wasn't all that it was. This is literally just a stepping stone. And we're coming to a point where this energy is being introduced to you, that of ascension, that of strong creativity, of a new set of circumstances. And the only thing that's really standing in the way of that is the degree to which your mind is pushing back against universal forces. Which is really fucking interesting, Leo. And I'm very excited actually to do the extended, which I'm going to go do in a second. The Ten of Cups is at the bottom here. This is really interesting because the Ten of Cups is the happy family card, right? It's it's a card that speaks of a completion, where the completion is everybody turning up in a Nine of Cups state, everybody turning up emotionally stable and taking care of their own thing, right? But it's not all work. There's got to be some play, there's got to be some flow somewhere. And this spontaneous arrival of the rainbow in the sky, it needs to be perceived. This is not something that you should turn your face away from. But at the same time, it's the completion of an old cycle, which implies the starting of a new one. And with that, what we've got is a new set of information that's coming through to you. Whatever the last 6 months have held for you, Leo, you were far too busy, nose to the grindstone, to be able to hear it. Now that's changing, because whatever responsibilities you have felt, you have discharged them to the best of your ability, at least in this situation here. And it's not to say that the responsibility goes away, but it does feel to me like it's changing form. And because in some way you can take your foot off the gas now, at least a little bit, this High Priestess is wanting to guide. And this could be your guides wanting to guide you. This could be your intuition wanting to, have more of a say in what's happening. It feels like a pulling out of the 3D in the more entrenched way that you've had to be this year, Leo. There's something much bigger, much more spiritual, much more expansive that's coming in, and it represents the guidance system for the next stage of your life. And August is this pushing back, right? And I think the pushing back is probably really helpful, because you're going to be able to see very clearly where that is not going to get you where you want to go. It might show you that where you thought you were going is actually not really where you want to go. It's not really the best thing here. But wherever there is tension, here's the point to relax. I don't think August is, well, obviously with all that retrograde energy, I don't think August is a month for initiating anything. It is about assimilation. It is about observation. It is about letting everything balance up. And to a degree, it's perhaps about recognizing that while you are in this state of transition, perhaps not much that is reflected back to you by other people will be of use. You quite simply need to get to know who you are now. Because who you are has been fashioned to be ready for this. And you're going to push back against it for the whole of August. But by the end of August, I do feel like all of these cards are going to be showing themselves up the other way around. This is why I think this is really fun. I'm actually really excited to get into the extended with you. So I'm going to do that now. If you would like to join me, you're very welcome to do so. Like I said at the beginning, you can do that over at Vimeo, or you can join on Circle. It's entirely up to you. If neither of those suit, no problem at all. That's not an issue. Just know that I think the more that you push, and particularly the more that you push with an old style of consciousness, the one that was so successful in getting you to where you are right now, the less likely you are to achieve what it is that you are trying to achieve, because it's of a different nature now. There's a whole new set of life experiences for you to have, and they do not require you to do this. And that's going to, this ascension is going to take a little bit of time to bed in, and it has to be allowed to flow. It cannot be forced. It's almost like you've got to allow yourself to go towards the light so that you can come back and know what you want and know exactly how you are going to execute it. If you have the luxury of doing so, Leo, I just fucking take August off. Not everybody has the luxury of taking a whole month off work. It's not really what I mean. Take the month off trying to push the way that you think, the information that you think is important onto your brain, and then, by extension, what you do, how you behave off the back of that. Just really flow this month. And as things crop up, allow them to be what they are and pass by unhindered, unchallenged by your brain. Just let it flow, because I think the clarity that you will receive by the end of the month is not something that you can currently understand with that mindset there. Fascinating. All right, know that I love you all very, very much, and I'll see you soon.